Because all atoms want a complete outer orbital, molecules, or I won't say it, molecules are formed, so atoms come together forming molecules. And a molecule is produced to make a more stable element, or to make elements more stable. So you get hydrogen atom has only one electron. You take it and you bind it to another hydrogen atom, and they're going to share those electrons, and that is going to produce a molecule that is more stable. So ions are atoms that have either lost or gained an electron and are now considered charged. They can be either positively charged if they've lost an electron, or they're negatively charged if they've gained an electron. Examples of ions, here we have sodium ion. That plus means it has a positive charge, which means it's lost an electron. Calcium ions have a 2+, which means they've lost 2 electrons, and they also are considered positively charged. Then chloride ions are negatively charged, so they have gained an electron. To produce an ionic compound, you have ions, or you have atoms come together, and one gives another one an electron. So the one that is giving an electron becomes positively charged. The one taking the electron becomes negatively charged. And in chemistry, as well as in biology, opposites attract. So they are attracted to each other, and they come together, forming a compound. It's called an ionic compound. And so ions that have a positive charge, like this sodium ion here, who's giving this electron to the chlorine over here, becomes positively charged and is called a cation. The chlorine ion, the chlorine atom, when it takes the electron, becomes negatively charged because now it has one more electron than it does proton. And this makes it become negatively charged. Negatively charged ions are anions. So positively charged ions are attracted to the negatively charged ions, and so they stick together. And so here's how we make table salt. You can watch as the sodium here gives an electron to this chlorine. Now both of the outer shells have a full 8 electrons, so they're both happy, they're both stable, and they're both attracted to each other. So question for you, do you think an ionic bond could form between 2 cations? The question here really is, do you think 2 positively charged atoms, so 2 positively charged ions, would be attracted to each other? Knowing that in biology and chemistry, opposites attract. If you've ever taken magnets and you've tried to put them together where the positive charges are going towards each other, they are repelled, and it's hard to push them together. The reason for that is they both have the same charge, and opposites attract like repels. So some atoms don't give electrons. Instead, what they do, or take electrons, instead what they do is they share electrons between 2 atoms. So it's like they're holding hands. Instead of me just giving you an electron and I become positively charged, you become negatively charged, and we stick together because we are attracted to each other, we're going to share electrons, and so it's like we're holding hands, and the electrons can go around my orbital and your orbital. That is a covalent bond. And so covalent bonds are formed when atoms share electrons. A lot of our macromolecules are formed through covalent bonds and ionic bonds. We have both covalent and ionic bonds that work together to form the macromolecules that make up living things. The most common elements that form covalent bonds: oxygen forms covalent bonds with hydrogen, forming what we call water. Franklin! Sorry, that's my dog. Carbon likes to form 4 covalent bonds because it needs 4 more hydrogens or 4 more electrons. So we have carbon dioxide or methane gas. Hydrogen forms covalent bonds with other hydrogen atoms, oftentimes forming hydrogen gas. So we can have simple covalent bonds, double covalent bonds, or triple covalent bonds, and even quadruple covalent bonds. The more covalent bonds, the stronger the bond is. If you are holding hands with one person and playing Red Rover, and you call someone over, when you're holding hands, you're strong, but someone can break through. If instead you're holding both of their hands and they have to break through both of your arms, then it's going to be stronger. Could you imagine if you had 2 people there with 4 bonds all together holding, and then someone has to try to break through? It's going to be really hard. So the more covalent bonds you form, the stronger the molecule is. So here you can see hydrogen gas forms a single covalent bond right there. Here's a double covalent bond between oxygen when it forms an oxygen gas. So it's sharing electrons. Here we have nitrogen gas sharing electrons again. Nitrogen would be harder to break apart than hydrogen. Sometimes we share electrons, but we don't share equally. So polar covalent bonds are unequally shared covalent bonds, whereas nonpolar covalent bonds are equally shared covalent bonds. Typically, to determine if you have a polar or a nonpolar covalent bond, you look at the electronegativity of each of the atoms. If you have equal electronegativity, then you're going to have a nonpolar covalent bond. But if one atom has a stronger affinity for the electrons, then you're going to produce a polar covalent bond. So let me show you what that means. Carbon has 6 protons. And so each of these has 6 protons, and each of these has 6 electrons. The electrons are not pulled to one carbon over the other carbon. They have the same amount of protons, which means the electrons are going to move through both carbon orbitals, electron orbitals, at equal amounts. And if that doesn't make sense, instead of me saying, does that make sense? Because you can say yes or no, but I'm not there. So if this does not make sense, talk to me about it, okay? So polar covalent bonds are bonds where one of the atoms has a stronger affinity towards the negative electrons. So oxygen has 8 electrons in its outer orbital, eight electrons and 8 protons. Hydrogen has 1 electron and 1 proton. Because oxygen has 8 protons, the electrons are more pulled towards this orbital. So opposites attract. The electrons like the oxygen atom a little bit more. They'll still move around the hydrogen atom, but not near as much. So they stay towards the oxygen atom. And what happens is we have a partial negative charge that surrounds the oxygen atom and a partial positive charge that surrounds the hydrogen atom because of the unequal sharing of the electrons. Oh. Okay, that's so this is this is a very important concept that you need to understand because polar and nonpolar bonding is what allows molecules to fold up properly so that we can produce proteins, so that nucleic acids wind up properly, and so that we can produce the different proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and everything that we have in our body. So some molecules are considered amphipathic. The term amphipathic means you have a charged region on one part of the molecule, so a polar region, which means you have a covalent bond where you have unequal sharing of the electrons. And then you have a nonpolar region where you have a covalent bond, but you have equal sharing of the electrons. And so phospholipids are examples of amphipathic molecules. They have a polar region that is attracted to water and a nonpolar region that is attracted to other nonpolar molecules and repelled by water. The last type of interaction we have that we talk about are intermolecular reactions, so like van der Waals reactions, but the main one that we talk about are hydrogen bonds. Hydrogen bonds and all intermolecular reactions are weak reactions, but even though they're weak, they collectively are very important in shaping a lot of our macromolecules. So the most important one is the hydrogen bond. Hydrogen bonds are bonds that form between multiple polar molecules. The attraction of the partially positive hydrogen to another polar molecule that has a partial negative oxygen forms a bond, and this is actually how water stays at room temperature when it is liquid. So the hydrogen bonding is important in two of our macromolecules. Proteins are folded, associated with hydrogen as well as ionic bonds. DNA structure is held in place, so the two single strands of our DNA are pulled together through hydrogen bonding and then held together. So individually, a hydrogen bond is a very weak bond, but collectively, when you have hundreds of hydrogen bonds in one molecule or in one compound, then you have a strong connection. And here's an example of a hydrogen bond. Here we have a glucose molecule, which is a polar molecule, and here we have water. So the partially negative charge of the oxygen, where all the electrons like to surround, is going to be attracted to the partial positive charge of this hydrogen. And it forms a bond, and actually this is why polar molecules can dissolve, or I should say water, which is polar, can dissolve other polar molecules. Always remember, like dissolves like, which means you're not going to have fats dissolve in water. But at the same time, water or water-soluble items like glucose wouldn't dissolve in fats either. I'm going to stop here because I'm almost out of time, and we'll pick this up in our next lecture. Bye.